Many talented musicians emerged in this decade, while others had continued success from previous decades. Here is a list of the 15 greatest and most famous female singers of the 1960s. One of the biggest stars of the 60s, Aretha Franklin, was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and started singing gospel music when she was a child. She moved to New York at the age of 18 and released her first album, Aretha, in 1961 with the Ray Bryant Combo. Her self-titled album was a mix of doo-wop, jazz, and R&B. Her hit song Respect was released in 1967 and became a popular song in the feminist movement. It also won 2 Grammy Awards. Franklin's other hits included Chain of Fools and You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. Singer and songwriter Janis Joplin was born in Port Arthur, Texas. She began singing in high school and continued throughout college. In 1963, she traveled to San Francisco and in 1966, joined the band Big Brother and the Holding Company. She sang with the band for 2 years before starting her career as a solo artist. Her mix of rock, soul, and blues music includes hit songs like Piece of My Heart, Mercedes-Benz, and Me and Bobby McGee. Joplin performed at the Woodstock Festival in 1969 and died just over a year later at the age of 27 from a drug overdose. Hailing from Brownsville, Tennessee, Tina Turner has been called the Queen of Rock and Roll. She began her career singing alongside Ike Turner before embarking on a solo career. The duo released the song A Fool in Love in 1960, as well as River Deep Mountain High in 1966. Their 1961 hit, It's Gonna Work Out Fine, was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Rock and Roll Performance. Tina Turner then went solo and was a hugely popular artist in the 70s and 80s, with some massive hits like Sometimes When We Touch, What's Love Got to Do with It, Private Dancer, and Simply the Best. Born in Detroit, Michigan, Diana Ross spent her youth in both Alabama and Detroit. When Ross was 15, she joined a singing group called the Primates. In 1961, this group was renamed as the Supremes and signed on with Motown Records. Ross was the lead vocalist for the group, which achieved great success in the 1960s with a dozen #1 songs. In 1964, they released the hit song, Where Did Our Love Go? The following year, their song, Baby Love, was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best R&B Recording. In 1965, the Supremes released Stop in the Name of Love, which was also nominated for a Grammy Award. Born in Winchester, Virginia, Patsy Cline began singing as a child at church. At 13, she developed rheumatic fever and was hospitalized with a throat infection. She has said that this changed her vocal capabilities. In 1957, she performed the song Walkin' After Midnight, which brought her initial success. She released her first album the same year. In the 1960s, Cline's career peaked, and she released songs including She's Got You and I Fall to Pieces, which both went to #1 in the US country charts. But, sadly, her career was cut short as Cline was killed in an airplane accident in 1963. Born in Tryon, North Carolina, Nina Simone was a legendary female jazz singer who was big in the 1960s. She released her debut album Little Girl Blue in 1959. She continued with a number of hits throughout the rest of the 60s, including the protest anthem Mississippi Goddam, which came out in 1964. It was inspired by the murders of Emmett Till, who was 14 years old when he was killed by 2 white men in 1955, and Medgar Evers, a civil rights activist killed by a white supremacist in 1963. Other Simone songs included My Baby Just Cares for Me, Trouble in Mind, Feeling Good, and Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out Blues. Singer Cass Elliott was born in Baltimore, Maryland, and began her music career with the Big Three in the early 1960s. She was also a member of the band The Mugwumps. Elliott is also famous for her role in the folk rock group The Mamas and the Papas, which singer and guitarist John Phillips led. They released their debut album, You Can Believe Your Eyes and Ears, in 1966. The Mamas and the Papas had several hit songs, including California Dreamin', dedicated to the one I love, Monday Monday, and Words of Love. Though the band was only active from 1965 until 1968, they were one of the most well-known groups of the decade. R&B and soul singer Etta James was born in Los Angeles, California, and began training as a singer at the age of 5. James released her debut album At Last in 1960, which included the hit song Just Want to Make Love to You. The following year, her famous song At Last came out. She was nominated for 4 Grammy Awards in the 1960s, including 2 for Best R&B Performance and 2 for Best R&B Solo Vocal Performance by a female. The daughter of great jazz singer Frank Sinatra, Nancy Sinatra was born in Jersey City, New Jersey. She studied music at UCLA before beginning her recording career. She had several hits in the 1960s, including Sugartown, Something Stupid, Summer Wine, Some Velvet Morning, and Bang Bang My Baby Shot Me Down. Sinatra was most well known for her 1966 hit, These Boots Are Made for Walkin'. It was nominated for 3 Grammy Awards. She also sang the theme song for the 1967 James Bond film, You Only Live Twice. Singer Dusty Springfield was born in London, England. Her music career started as a singer in the group The Lana Sisters in 1958. She also performed as a member of the Springfields before starting her solo career in 1963. She released her debut solo album, A Girl Called Dusty, in 1964, followed by 4 additional albums over the next 5 years. Her hit songs released in the 1960s included I Only Want to Be With You, I'll Try Anything, Son of a Preacher Man, and You Don't Have to Say You Love Me. Springfield was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 2 weeks after she passed away. Born in Eufaula, Alabama, Martha Reeves began her singing career as a teenager with the pop group The Fascinations in 1959. She later became part of the all-female singing group Martha and the Vandellas. She was the lead singer, accompanied by Rosalind Ashford and Annette Beard. This Motown group had several hit songs in the 1960s, including Heatwave in 1963 and I'm Ready for Love in 1966. Heatwave was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best R&B Performance. The group's most popular song was Dancing in the Street, which came out in 1964. It became a civil rights anthem for many who protested during this decade. Singer, songwriter, and guitarist Joan Baez was born in Staten Island, New York. A folk music artist, Baez made her career debut with her self-titled album in 1960. 3 more successful albums followed this in the next 3 years. She recorded a number of songs that were written by Bob Dylan, helping to bring attention to the relatively unknown artist at the time. Her hits included Diamonds and Rust, and The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down. Baez was very active in the civil rights movement during the 1960s and spoke out against the Vietnam War. Born in Detroit, Michigan, Mary Wells overcame a number of physical challenges in her childhood, including tuberculosis and meningitis. She started singing at church and later on at nightclubs, eventually signing with Motown Records in 1960 at the age of 17. She was often referred to as the Queen of Motown and had several hit songs in the 1960s, including The One Who Really Loves You, You Beat Me to the Punch, Two Lovers, and Dear Lover. Her most famous song, My Guy, came out in 1964. Lesley Gore was born in Brooklyn, New York, and raised in New Jersey. In 1963, she released the song, It's My Party, which became a sensational pop hit. She was 16 years old and still in high school at the time, and the song received a nomination for a Grammy Award. Gore followed up that same year with popular songs, You Don't Own Me, She's a Fool, and Judy's Turn to Cry. Especially popular among teenage girls, Gore was one of the symbols of the second-wave feminist movement of the 1960s. And finally, pop singer Peggy March hails from Lansdale, Pennsylvania. At the age of 14, she recorded the song, I Will Follow Him. The single reached #1 on the charts, making her the youngest female music artist to achieve such a feat. March's other songs included Hello Heartache, Goodbye Love, which came out in 1963, and Your Good Girl's Gonna Go Bad from 1967. She also released several songs in German in the 1960s and 3 Italian songs. The 1960s were a decade filled with political and social action, civil rights, gay rights, and feminist activism. The music world saw a shift away from the popular rock and roll of the 1950s, and an emergence of folk music and all-female singing groups. While the 1960s saw a resurgence of folk music, you can see from my list that all genres of music were represented during this decade, from country and rock to R&B and pop. Musicians of the 1960s were a diverse and talented group.